If you're down here right now, who's driving the ship?
That's a good question. The question is if I'm here and Saul is here, because I've been training him forever. Now, actually I have my second in command, the staff captain, is up there right now. Yeah, so there's, and I'm the real captain, but I have a good assistant, and he is, when I'm not up there, then he's there.
There's always someone on the bridge, right? So, yep, down here in the front.
Hey Cap, quick question. Actually two. My wife has a question. Fully capacity or fully loaded, what is the draft below the waterline? Or?
We're about 26 feet, 8.1 meters.
Okay, and you have a lot of functions on the ship. You're responsible for a lot of different divisions. Your immediate staff that reports to you, how many, can you just briefly go over the divisions that report to you?
Yeah, so basically we have 3 departments on the ship. So we have the navigation department, the engine department, and the hotel department. And so there's and then we have actually an environmental officer that oversees the environmental aspects of all those 3 departments. But we have 3 main departments, and then every department has a sub-department, like the hotel has the housekeeping, the entertainment, culinary department, beverage department, etc. So then it goes down, so it's like a tree of reports that go to that. The total in the navigation is about 65 people, engine room has about 80 people, and the rest is hotel. So there's about 800 people in the hotel department working for the hotel director.
And then they all direct report straight into the captain. Yeah, so it all ties back in from there. Yep, here.
So I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, has there ever been anybody that has jumped over the ship? And then the second question is, has there ever been anything that was scary to you in all your shipping days that has happened to the vessels where you guys have had to take immediate action, stage 2 or stage 3?
Well, I don't think anybody's ever jumped over the ship, but they have jumped off the ship. Yes, no, well, actually, it's not quite true. One time in Vancouver, a guy tried to jump off the Lionsgate Bridge on the ship, but he missed, so he actually did jump over the ship. So there you go. So it was not a good day for that guy.
That's one way you get a free cruise right there.
I actually, I mean, I've seen pretty much every possible way of somebody jumping off the ship, or we found the interesting story we found years ago. There was we were sailing out of the Panama Canal, just had a busy day there, and it was pitch dark, probably about 10 o'clock at night, new moon, no light, nothing. And passenger reported, said that I've seen somebody in the water. And okay, are you sure? Yeah, he was waving and shouting and everything. Okay. So then we activated our organization and stopped the ship, turned around, lowered the boat, started searching, trying to find out who on the ship could be off. And so we interviewed the guy, and he was somewhere near the bow of the ship, so we're like, okay, it still is very strange. Eventually we found this guy, we searched for about 2.5 hours or so, and there you go, cell service. Welcome to the world. So we found the guy, and took him on board, and we resumed our course. We put him in a cabin and kept him there. We took his fingerprints, sent his fingerprints to the FBI, because you don't know, he didn't come off our ship. So we jumped off a ship ahead of us somewhere, and so we kept him there for a couple of days, and then the FBI came back. Okay, we've identified this person. He'd come aboard some freighter in Tampa, and he thought he was on his way to Africa. And when he went through the canal, he literally stowed away on this cargo ship. When he figured out that he was going the wrong way, he saw the lights on the shore and thought he could swim for it. Well, so his luck was that most of the ship coming out of the canal followed the same route, and we just happened to be the next ship coming by, because otherwise he probably would have died. So anyway, knowing this, that he wasn't an ex-murderer or anything like that, we said, okay, maybe you want to get some fresh air, so we walked him around the deck. And what does the idiot do? He came to the back, he jumped again. Yes. Yes, this happened. So anyway, but we had a guy with him, so immediately stopped the ship. I mean, because you can't just let somebody swim to his demise. So stopped the ship, lowered the boat, tried to get him, and in the cabin we found a little note that says, "Captain, your ship is great, but I really don't see the point in this." So that's kind of his state of mind. And it is I tell you, it is very hard with a lifeboat to go get somebody that does not want to come to that lifeboat. So it's very easy to swim away, so we tried knocking him on the head with an oar. All kinds of things to try and get this guy to comply. So we said, you know, we're not going to get this guy unless we put swimmers in the water. So we looked around the crew, who the two biggest guys were. We said, okay, call the boat back, and these guys were going out in their Speedos, and yeah, pretty scary. So we sent them out, and in the meantime the guy thought that we were going to leave him because the boat was recalled. So by the time we got back to him, he actually changed his mind and came willingly. So they didn't actually have to go in the water to go get him, but we didn't let him out of his cabin after that. So that was good.
That was just last week, right?
Oh, no. Well, this was about 25 years ago. So, yeah. Funny enough, so we came into LA, and the Coast Guard came to pick him up, and at the gate of the port they let him go. Yeah, they never did anything to the guy. Is he the what?
He's in the break.
Yeah, we didn't let him out. We do have a break, yeah. We can lock you up if you misbehave.
All right, just down here, yeah?
Firstly, do you slow down in the fog? Second question is,
Do we slide what?
do you slow down in a fog?
Depends on the traffic situation.
Secondly, is the Costa Concordia accident in the Mediterranean, did that change the way you do things on cruise ships?
It sure made us look at our operations and sharpen some things and change some operations around, yes, for sure.
Over here, on the stairs.
Hey, Captain, I thought the isopod system eliminated most of the vibration from a ship versus a straight shaft drive. Could you comment on that? Is there any big advantage to the isopod versus a straight shaft?
The short answer is no. When we our first isopod ship was the Amsterdam, and then the second one Zuidendam. They experienced tremendous vibration in the dining room when they were going higher speeds. The way they solved this is by installing basically a bubble compressor under the stern. So we have a big air compressor, and they drilled like 100 million holes in the stern, and we pump an air through that. So actually under the back end of the ship there is a big air cushion, and that takes care of the vibration of the ship. So on the Zuidendam they retrofitted that, but on all the ships since then they have had that. And actually they are now experimenting with ships that have that technology all alongside the ship. So actually there's a bubble compressor in the front and the middle and the back to reduce vibration. And so basically we're like a big truck with an air suspension.
All right, Chris, down here, yeah?
I would like to know your water supply. Do you reverse osmosis, or you take on potable water at the dock?
All of the above. The ship has 2 evaporators, so we actually evaporate seawater at a lower temperature the vacuum evaporator, so over a vacuum water boils at a lower temperature. We take that steam off and condense it, and then it's fresh water. We have a reverse osmosis system, which is basically a filter system. Just think of a big coffee filter. We put seawater in, and all the salt stays behind, and fresh water comes out the other end. And then, especially here in Alaska, we have plenty rain, as you may have noticed. And so the ports are very generous with that. Most of them have $500 flat fee. We can take as much water as we want.
Just up here in the middle.
I have 2 questions. The first one is how much dollars does it take to make a cruise ship?
The cost of the Eurodam is about 700 million.
And my second question is why are the floor names like that? The floor names.
I don't know, I didn't make that up. The navigation deck I can figure out, the rest of them, somebody smart thought of that. It's a good question. I'll ask the boss when he comes in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, good question indeed. Chris, where have you gone? You're in the middle. Yep.
If you wanted to bring someone on board, like a family member, would they have to pay for the cruise, or do you have a +1, so to speak?
What situation? +1? Oh, well, like my wife is coming in 2 weeks. I can bring her, and she can stay in my cabin, and I can actually take 1 more person with me in the cabin, so I can actually have 2 persons in the cabin. So whether that's one of my kids or somebody else, that works out. And then we have a company program that allows relatives to sail at a reduced rate. Yes.
So a bit of both right here.
When this cruise is over, how long does it take to refit and reload the ship?
The cabins will be ready at noon on Saturday. So we come in at about 6 in the morning. We'll be docked, and they'll start unloading the luggage, start loading stores and provisions. And by noon you will start embarking. The cabins will be ready, and the loading is usually finished by about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep, up here with Chris.
How many captains does the Holland American Line employ, and how many of them are female?
That's a good. Well, the last question is right now 0. We had 1 female staff captain, but she just quit last year. We have probably about 34 captains altogether.
Yep, over here again.
Do you ever get seasick?
No, and my wife hates that. Because the ship may be moving, and it's like, well, do something about that. But to me it starts getting bad when the TV starts flying. So my level is a little bit different. So, but actually, I've been emailing with one of my colleagues, and he does get seasick. Yeah, Captain Bos on the Nordam gets terribly seasick, but his ship goes to Australia, which has the worst waters in the world. So I don't know why he likes that so much. I'm not quite sure.
Lots of apples and ginger ale. Yep, over here.
No, that doesn't work. So I don't know how to tell people that.
That's what I've heard. I've only heard these things.
Okay. So I don't get seasick, so I'm not quite sure what actually would be good. But my take on this is eat spaghetti. Yes.
You said apples and ginger ale
No.
and spaghetti.
No, and I will tell you why. If you get seasick, your stomach produces all kinds of acids and stuff like that, and that's what comes up, and that makes you even sicker. If you eat carbohydrates, they actually absorb that acid. So if you have a good load in your stomach, that'll take care of that queasy feeling, because you won't have the acid in your stomach. Now, if you do get sick, it comes out much easier than the apple.
You heard it from the captain, everybody. All right, spaghetti it is.
Always practical.
Always practical.
What is your schedule like? How many days are you on and how many off?
We work about a 3-month schedule, so we're 3 months on, 3 months off. And basically every day is different. So some days you start at 7 o'clock in the morning, do a little email and go on an inspection round, have some kind of meeting, talk to passengers, do something like that, dock the ship, and yeah, so it's every day is something, and especially here in Alaska, the hours are very much different than just 9 to 5.
Where are we up the back up this time? Yep.
My question is kind of similar. Do you ever go home, like do you sail for a certain amount of like months or years and then go home for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so we work for 3 months and then we go home for 3 months. And then my wife makes me work for 3 months.
Chris, yeah.
I've noticed that there have been crews, looks like they're putting paint on the ship. Are they actually painting, or is it some type of a covering? And how often is the aerodrome completely repainted or refurbished exteriorly?
Yeah, they are actually painting, and the reason for that is because sea was very aggressive, but like if we lay against the dock and the fenders, they damage the paint, so we're continuously keeping it up to keep it looking nice. Typically the whole ship is painted probably about 1.5 times a year, I would say.
Yep, back right again.
I wanted to ask how many people were on board, including the passengers and the people who work on the ship?
Well, we have about 2,300 people and about 900 crew, so somewhere around 3,200.
And Chris, right up the back, you got one question? Yep.
Yes, I've been in all sorts of cruises, and I know that there's people that are crazy and jump off board. Is it better to jump off in front or in the back?
Somebody take our cabin number, please.
I have no personal experience in this, but I would think most people, you don't want to get sucked in the propellers, unless because that is really not good. So, but if you want to enjoy the ship sailing away, jump off the back and jump from as lower deck as possible.
Just don't jump. Just don't do it. Like, this is not. Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, there is no good.
No, but
case.
can you see, as a captain, can you see it better from the front or the back?
Well, we have like camera systems that look at everything, yes. So hopefully they'll spot it.
Okay.
I noticed up on the top deck in the forward area, there's some large pieces of glass, and one of them was broken and there's plywood put in instead. I just was curious what had happened there.
Probably there's always some tension in the ship, so the ship actually bends. So if that pane of glass is touching the metal somewhere, then it could be that it gets squeezed and bursts. Or most of the panes are actually double pane glass with like the same like you have at home, the nitrogen in between. So if that, if somehow the seal is broken and they get milky inside, they replace them as well.
And Chris, where you go? He's up there, up the back, is he?
If someone has a medical emergency, how do you get them to like the closest hospital or wherever they might need to go?
It depends on the emergency. The doctor contacts me and said I have this person that needs to get off really bad. Then we call the Coast Guard or whichever Marine Rescue Center is closest, and then they actually have our doctor talk with their doctor to discuss the options, and sometimes that's a helicopter, sometimes that's a boat, or we have to speed up, or they will, if it's a mid-ocean thing, then we've had them drop medication or blood plasma or whatever to until we get within helicopter range, so all kinds of things can happen at that point.
Yep, over here, Marlon.
How many ships are in the Holland Cruise Line?
We have 14 or 15 now. 14?
Yeah, 14 right now.
Next year we have 15 again.
With the new one. Yep, still up there with Chris.
What does it cost to park the boat when you go to a port?
That's very different from port to port, actually, and that ranges. If you go to Fredrikstad in St. Croix, you pay nothing. They really like us there, and yeah, they just like to promote people coming to the island. So they said, whenever you like, you can come and dock, and it doesn't cost you anything. But most places cost $10,000–15,000. The most expensive place in the world, I believe, is Göteborg, Sweden now, and I think they charge about $150,000 for the pleasure. Yes, New York is second at about 120. So, not well. You don't stop there. So, but the Panama Canal actually, I should ask them how much they paid here. But I think like I went on the Zuiderdam, which is only slightly smaller. It was like $320,000 or $330,000.
Yeah, pretty cheap. We got one down here, or Chris, be back up there with you? Still up there with you, okay.
I got a bargain.
I know, right?
Yeah, so over the last couple of days, I've noticed there's been some large wooden, I don't know if they're tree trunks or if it was a cargo, like lots of wood going by. Is there a reason for that? Did something happen? And then kind of as a follow-up question to that, if there is a ship where some cargo is dropped, is there a way that a system of notification, of notifying other ships, to watch out for debris or something like that?
Yeah, the trees are really trees that are floating in the water, and that's basically because when a tree gets old, it falls over and it rolls in the water, and then it floats off, and that's what happens when they. Most of these trees, they just they come from these islands. If the water is high, then eventually they will reach the water. The cargo. There's some wild stories going around about ships hitting containers and stuff like that. If in bad weather a container falls off a ship, almost always it sinks immediately because that container is not waterproof. So the container actually will take on water and sink. Every once in a while it happens that it does float for, maybe the container's full of ping pong balls or something like that. Then a couple of years back there was a sailboat that hit a container, but that is really a seldom occurrence.
Alright, we got down here with Marlon, then we're going up the back with Chris, and then the final one down here, yeah? So, over here.
The first thing is, what's the name of the newest ship?
The newest ship, our new ship is the Koningsdam, and the one that is coming out next year is the new Statendam.
And then the second one was on the elevator map. I saw something like it's really far down, but it says medical center.
If you get sick, that's where you go. It's like our little hospital. So it's not. You can do anything from sticking a band-aid on to taken out your appendix.
Yeah, that's it. And at the back with Chris, and then the final one will be down the front here.
How do you process gray water?
Grey water is essentially so grey water. The ship as you know, what goes on must come off at some point. Grey water is the water that comes from the showers, the kitchens, etc. And we have a wastewater plant. So just like your local town or whatever, we treat the wastewater through essentially it's like a big septic tank. So the water goes in a tank, we got bacteria eating merrily away at the soap scum and the food and particles and all the other stuff that comes out of the toilets and everything. And once they've had their fill, the water is actually extracted through a membrane, through a filter. So then it goes, then it's essentially clean water. We run it through a UV filter after that in case there's any bacteria left in that water, and then it goes overboard. And so the only residue that is left is a kind of biosludge which consists of dead bacteria. So you know, when you have your septic tank pumped out over time, we do the same thing, and that sludge goes into the incinerator and is burned.
And the final one right here down the front.
Yes, in your slide presentation, you mentioned you had 2 main anchors, and you have a spare. Is there any situation where you may have to cut an anchor loose, and do you lose the chain?
Yeah, that has happened. You know, when you pull up the anchor and it's not there anymore. That has happened. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it gets hung up on the bottom and you actually can't bring it up, and then you're forced to cut the chain. That has happened. Or what you can do in that case, you can actually slip the whole chain. So the chain, one end is attached to the anchor, but the other end is attached to the ship. So you just release the end that's attached to the ship, tie a buoy to it, and throw the whole thing overboard. And then you send some divers to go pick that back up. But if you do that, we have a spare anchor, but we don't have a spare chain. So then you have to find a piece of chain somewhere that is big enough to hold the ship. So in most cases, in that case, we just cut the chain off where it's at, and we carry a length of chain is 15 fathoms, is about 27 meters, and we carry 13 lengths of chain on each anchor. So most of the time you only need about 4 or 5 lengths of chain to anchor the ship. So you cut it off at that link, or actually you unhook the link, and then you still have most of your chain left. So put the next anchor on, and you're good to go. It's not that easy though, but, so it takes a little bit of work, and a big crane. And somebody that knows what he's doing. But yeah, that does happen, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. Are you going to cut that chain? Are you going to be able to retrieve the other parts? Or you have to make some choices, because that chain is not cheap.
All right, everybody, one more time. Please give it up for our captain. And thank you all for coming out. Again, get on out and enjoy your event tonight. We've got plenty of time before we head off into Victoria, and plenty to do on